Things, so you'll have 25 minutes to present. Then that will be followed by 15 minutes of questions where you must tell us our role, and we stay in role for that. After we've exhausted all those questions and comments as the board or management or whatever you deem whatever role we're going to play, then we can have comments to you on presentation, and that'll be open. So now you need to tell us what role we are playing in this presentation.
You as the audience will play as Northgate Markets Executive Board.
Executive Board. And I forgot to mention, you are not to identify your school, and we do not define who we're from. Okay.
Lovely. Okay, let's begin.
Okay, roll.
We are turning excess into excellence, forwarding sustainable retail from Northgate Markets. My name is Xander Bocking, and I'll be your business analyst for today.
My name is Caitlin Allen. I'll be your marketing manager for today.
My name is Ruth Moreno. I'll be your Chief of Financial Affairs.
Our mission: we are a nonprofit organization that practices zero waste practices, utilization of financial, ethical, and legal protocols of the federal and state government alongside individual firm bylaws, in this case, your company's bylaws. Our number one goal here at Wasteless Solution is education, awareness of sustainable development through implementations of procurement policies, as well as digital infrastructure. Wasteless Solutions is here to help. A report outline, so brief information on who we are, who's Northgate, how can we help you? The solution is the opportunity, and part 5 is the next steps, our conclusions, and in the future.
So just to give you a little overview of what we know as Northgate Markets.
No, speak louder, please.
Oh, sorry. So just to give you a little overview of what we know about Northgate Markets. When you first walk into Northgate Markets, you're welcomed with the aroma of traditional Mexican dishes such as tamales, tacos, and tortas available to you, and also you're provoked by the sight of a plethora of agua frescas available. As you keep walking to the right, you see a torteria where freshly made tortillas are made on the daily. And to the left, you have a salsa bar with a variety of different kinds of salsas, so whether you can eat a ghost pepper whole, or if you're intolerant to spice, there's something there for you. Then in the middle is where you're going to find your traditional grocery supermarket experience. You'll see your favorite grocery items just stocked in the shelves, whereas in your produce section, you're going to see the produce in pyramids full to the brim. Now, Northgate does an excellent job. We believe that Northgate does an excellent job with providing its customers with an excellent and authentic experience. And it all aligns with its goals and values as a business. For example, it is customer focused, and they really emphasize making an easy and enjoyable shopping experience. In addition, they also express their passion for their heritage and their culture and welcome others into that like a family.
Now briefly, I'm going to be discussing the executive summary, and I want to put an emphasis on 2 key indicators that you see on here. That's going to be the overview of initiative values. That's going to be, we want to reevaluate, we want to adopt, collaborate, and empathize with Northgate. And secondly, the SDG connections. We are going to be addressing SDG goal number 12, which is changing unsustainable practices. And we discovered that accompanied by this elimination of food waste, this correlates to SDG goal number 13, which is reduction of carbon emissions. So now, I'm here to discuss the main problem at hand. To put it into a larger perspective, Los Angeles County, according to the Sanitation District, produces 4,000 tons of food waste. Now you may wonder, how is this relevant to Northgate Markets? Well, Northgate Markets has 43 stores as a company, 22 of which can be found in Los Angeles County by itself. Now, Northgate has an opportunity to make significant impacts to its communities here.
We really find that it's vital for Northgate to partner with us in combating climate change and food waste. Just thinking about the climate implications of food waste, for example, the United States Environmental Protection Agency describes there being 4 phases within when organic matter decomposes. Generally, it depends on the landfill conditions, but generally in phase 3 and 4 is where when the organic matter, such as food waste, is decomposing, it releases the emissions, the most emissions such as carbon dioxide and methane, which is seen to be 84 times as dense as carbon dioxide. And as Californians, we have seen these dire effects come to play within our own communities and neighborhoods and wildlife as dry conditions mixed with rising temperatures from those greenhouse gases have created wildfires, record-breaking wildfires.
Thank you, Caitlin. So now we're going to transition on stakeholders. So we have 3 stakeholders: California citizens, our environment, and the future generations. California citizens primarily focusing on LA County, which the demographic is Latin heritage, so Hispanics. And environment, as Xander mentioned, climate crisis and food waste. With future generations, we believe that if there is no solution within our solution that we would propose, we would get to a weak global economy due to food waste and climate crisis, which we will elaborate more in the next slides. So the 4 points that we will be covering is ethical, sustainable, legal, and financial.
Thank you, Ruth. And now I'm going to be talking about the ethical and sustainable considerations. The main issue at hand here is our lack of transparency on our food waste, as well as our initiative and goals, right? And I'm going to be addressing the community transparency in food waste, which relates to greenhouse gas emissions and the 4,000 tons of food waste. Sweet. Now, these are some things I want you to keep in mind as as I cover the community transparency in food waste sectors. 49% of Hispanic or Latino demographic resides in LA County. That's per the last statistic survey that the U.S. Bureau of Census took. And 22 of that 43 stores of Northgate can be found in LA County alone. Now, your company's targeted demographic, half of which reside in LA County. Now, why should you care, right? For starters, food waste. Transparency on food waste. Now more than ever, climate change is something that people are coming to understand and learn more about. We owe it to our customers to be transparent and to include them in this process of sustainable practices. Secondly, our community. The LA Department of Public Health stated that 30.4% of people reported food insecurity in the Los Angeles County. Now that 4,000 tons of food waste can be in the hands of these people. Through our solutions, we hope to connect EBT holders to discounted food before it becomes food that is inconsumable. And lastly, education. Clearly, Northgate has the capabilities to educate its customers on sustainable practices. Your company's goal to educate and serve your community is now. All in all, we are here to evolve Northgate Market. We want your customers to shop with confidence. We want your company to live up to its goals and values of ethical practices and reducing food waste. Now this all comes down to meeting those goals once again, SDG 12 and 13. Through transparency and education, we hope to attract more customers and increase revenues. Excuse me, let's take a quick sip of water. Okay. Now, I'm going to talk about the legal and the financial considerations. I'm going to be addressing SB 1383 and the loss of potential revenues, right? As you can see, SB 1383 was enacted in 2022 by the state. The goals are to divert 75% of organic waste from landfills by 2025. These are per 2014 numbers, as well as divert 20% of otherwise disposable food to households to consume. Now, I'm going to move on to the loss of potential revenue. Expired goods that are thrown away or donated indicate unused products that could have been otherwise sold, right? And so this indicate a loss of profits for Northgate. Secondly, due to COVID-19 repercussions of inflation, more people are actually willing to buy nearly expired goods more than ever now, and the study can be found in the Library of Medicine. Now, I'm going to briefly go over our solutions timeline, and I want to acknowledge the work that you've done here for our community. Ever since Northgate has opened up, you've had a discount section in your store. You reuse damaged or nearly expired goods for repurposing, internalized repurposing. It goes towards your bakeries or the restaurants you have inside your stores. You also started donating to the fire department, to the police stations, and local donation centers. And as of 2016, you had a company-wide implementations of food incinerators. These turns food scraps into fertilizers. And before 2022 SB 1383 was enacted, you were already practicing sustainability operations. Now, Wasteless Solution has an opportunity for you here. In 2024, let's add another layer to your fight against unsustainable practices.
To give a little context into our solutions and what we're trying to target, we really want to focus on Sustainable Development Goal number 12 and 13. Number 12 is focuses on responsible consumption and production patterns, and we really want to focus on target 5, which is to substantially reduce waste generation, and we also want to focus on Sustainable Development Goal target number 6, which is to encourage companies to adopt sustainable practices and sustainability reporting. And we also believe that our solutions do touch on climate action, which we really want to focus on target number 3, which is to build knowledge and capacity to meet climate change. Now, the United States Environmental Protection Agency, we found, has a food waste scale. And so at the very top right here, you can see that it is most preferred all the way to least preferred. Their most preferred strategies really suggest avoiding overproduction from the very beginning. So preventing excess produce buying or serving that's unnecessary. Secondly is their donation and upcycling. So it really just suggests repurposing food as a second resort. And lastly, just to skip over to their least preferred, is avoiding at all costs sending it into landfills, into drains, and removing it from being repurposed. So our solution is just in between these two right here, which is preventing wasted food and donating and upcycling. Now for our solution, we really are focused on leveraging your existing app concept. We're suggesting that you implement a promotional pricing strategy, but the catch is the pricing strategy is a discount dedicated to when a product has reached a certain amount of days before its expiration date. And this pricing would be reflected on the Northgate Pronto app. And we also want to advise you to take advantage of this opportunity and also add a sustainability education tab just to give your consumers and users more information about sustainability practices that they can have at home, and also where you can reflect your own initiatives for those that transparency aspect that we lacked in the first place. So to the far right, my far right, you can see the app icon. In the middle, this is how it looks on the home screen. And then here is kind of the user interface of the app currently. You can see it has the name, the price, add to cart, and just a visual image of the product itself. Now, this is how we propose you update the app interface in regards to maximizing your revenue. These features will include adding expiration dates and best by dates. Here at the corner you can see that there's a little expiration date just to communicate that to the user. And then of course it's that promotional price. We want it big and bold so it draws consumers in and say, oh, this is on sale and I need it. But this amount would be up to the discretion of the supermarket, so whatever fits for you guys. And we also advise that there be a disclaimer in the description just saying that the promotional price is based on the expiration date, just to avoid any legal needs or affairs, and also to communicate to the audience, hey, this is why this is on sale. Here's the updated app interface in regards to education. The features will include an education tab here at the bottom in the navigation bar. Here's where you can find quick facts, what to know, and little micro blogs. And again, it is that opportunity to project Northgate's sustainability initiatives and also their progress in this sustainability journey. As for legal consideration, it does aid in providing and satisfying SB 1383, which Sandra had mentioned previously, just because it does add an additional attempt to get that expired food or excess food that would have otherwise been wasted into the hands of the consumer.
All right, thank you, Caitlin. So Caitlin mentioned the solution, and now we're going to talk about the adaptation of the solution. Also, our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in regards with renovating our app. So, what are the current app features? The current app features, there's just three things that we need to keep in mind before we talk about the cost implementations, which is the strengths, the American Disabilities Act, the search engine optimization, and how Northgate Market invested in National Cash Register, NCR. So this is a civil rights act. It was passed in 1960 by 101 Supreme, was it? Yeah, it was the 101st United States Congress. And this search engine optimization is a compliance adherence with certain coding and design standards that have, though they do not have legal implementations, this is very important for traffic within one's app, and which is what we're going to talk about. And then the Invested in National Cash Register is a software that that currently is what Northgate used to create their e-commerce brand. So NCR is a free shop, also known as National Cash Register. It's an investment that offers store-branded e-commerce solutions, and some of the options that they have, which we saw in the presentation that Caitlin mentioned, was the full e-commerce, the digital coupon integrations, where they offered discounts and coupons on the products, the catalog for product images, and also no setup charge. And how do these align with our second and third promise in peril? Well, it aligns because in second promise in peril, it creates opportunities through digital and green economies while urgently tracking the education, the crisis in education, which is part of the reason why we're here, to make renovations in our app, to educate consumers so that consumers become more aware of also how to become more accountable with their carbon footprint. So the current app features, here are the weaknesses. So this is an example of what the app currently offers. You have a product which is just a drink. So there's a discount here, 2 for $5, and you can easily see there's a description, ingredients, and nutrition list. However, in their baked goods or in something simple as an egg carton, there's no description, nutrition, there's not even an expiration date behind that could tell the consumer, hey, this product is going to expire at this time, how much time are they able to consume it. So all in all, it just displays poor quality for consumers, and that it also lack of education on what is safe versus the quality of the product itself. So our implementation are 2 steps. Number 1, we will provide a stated expiry or best by dates for perishable items. And number 2, as Caitlin had mentioned, is a blog underneath the bottom of the screen. So what we mean by expiration dates is this right here. Sell by, use by, and best if used by. So sell by, you sell a product by that date. Use by, you use the product. If you do not use a product by that date, then all of a sudden it becomes a safety hazard. Or best if used by, which is just you could use it, but the quality of it is just what changes, but the safety overall doesn't have any effect other than the taste and appearance. So our implementation costs. This is what you need to know. The total revenue for all 43 stores in Northgate Market is, since we're targeting LA County, there are 22 stores out of 43 Northgate Market stores that are within LA County. So the revenue per employee ratio is $173,333. And then we found the amount of employees during LA County. We got a revenue approximation of $665 million, and gross margin of 32%, cost of goods sold of $212 million. And so what we found here is, all right, this is the revenue for just 1 month of one market within Northgate Market would be approximately $30,000 to $35,000. And in order to make an app renovation, you have an app renovation costs $10,000 to $75,000. So in other words, it is a pretty favorable investment. It's feasible, and it can be fulfilled if those investments will be put in operating expenses for sales and expenses units, since we are certain that our sales will remain constant if not increase, and our cost of goods sold has also increased. So next slide please. The question is, has it worked before? And yes, it has. There is a current app called Too Good To Go, and they implement dynamic pricing. Pretty much they're just a brand that connects consumers to other local businesses, and those food or produce that they were not able to sell becomes discounted. A person could buy it at a discount, and they've been very successful. In the last 6 years, they were able to save 124 million meals from landfills from 2016 to now, and they made a revenue of 73.6 million in 2022. So this is something similar to what we are planning. The only difference is, instead of it connecting to local businesses, it would be within the Northgate Market stores, and that would help with the next slide, which is the competitive advantages. And the competitive advantages, it encourages sustainable clauses, which is number 12 and 13, builds consumer loyalty, as consumers see that it's a social marketing approach from Northgate Market. It affiliates to the Northgate Market vision, which is service, innovation, and education, something that we are trying to further implement as it's an opportunity to further develop it into the app, and to increase CEO, which was the compliance that Northgate Market exhibited when they started the app, and an increase in profitability. So, yeah. Next slide, please.
And with that, we just want to re-emphasize that we are really inspired by Northgate's Markets initiatives and are here to partner with you in forwarding your own goals and values and also forwarding the sustainability practice with the United Nations as well. Thank you so much.
Now we'll be opening the board for some questions that you guys may have for us.
Where's the nearest Northgate Market?
Where's the nearest Northgate Market? We are located here, I want to say, there's one 15 miles from here.
15?
15.
The
Might be
closest one would be
Actually, there might be one in Marina Del Rey, actually.
there. How far is the Sophie Stadium from here?
I'm not close.
The SoFi,
SoFi
Stadium. We had a graduation there once, so I think it's isn't it less than 15 miles?
It is,
I mean,
during
yeah.
the private
I never heard of
avenue- during
The
the
SoFi Stadium?
No, Northgate Market.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from what I know, it would be at Marina Del Rey, which is about 10 to 15 minutes from here. It did come up in conversation yesterday with one of
I can't believe
other
there's a
participants.
Northgate in Marina Del Rey.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that's like so wasp.
I mean, Northgate welcomes, right, any ethnicity to experience.
Well, everybody loves Mexican food.
Right,
so,
it doesn't.
you know.
You're in California, in
Right.
SoCal for that matter.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, that's
Let me go back to what you said in the very beginning, if I remember it correctly.
Right.
There's 4,000 pounds a day of food waste in LA County.
4,000 tons.
Tons, I'm sorry.
Of food annually.
What happens to it now?
What? To that,
To that-
wasted food?
Yeah,
Yeah, so a lot of it, majority of it goes towards landfills.
okay.
Yeah,
because we got
majority of
those
it,
numbers from the sanitation department, right?
yes. A majority of it goes towards landfills because these are food that could have been consumed, but because it's expired, people can't consume it
No,
anymore.
I understand that
Yeah.
part. I just wondered where it goes.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
answered my question. It goes into the landfill.
Yes.
Once
goes
it
into
gets in the landfill, what happens to it?
Caitlin might be able to speak on that. Yeah.
Once it's in the landfill, it's just left there.
Hey, what?
And it's just left there typically.
Well, what does it produce? Does it degrade and
So it
produce toxic
decomposes.
waste?
Yes.
Yes.
It decomposes and it starts to release those greenhouse gas emissions we were referring to, which is CO2 and methane. And then methane is known to be, if I'm correct, 84 to 83 times more heavier than CO2.
Yeah, so as it sits for a longer period of time, the more it increases through
Okay,
those phases.
I'm
Yeah.
familiar with methane.
Yeah.
If this is implemented,
Right.
how much does it decrease those 4,000 tons?
So if we were to implement this, and that's a really great question when we start with that. And if we were to implement this, the goal is to, because of Northgate's lack of transparency with how much food waste they're making, we're not exactly sure how to gauge that number, right?
It would decrease approximately 10% of the carbon footprint. We got that based on the numbers that we use comparing the Too Good To Go. In regards with sales income sheets or statements or budget sheets or any cash flow or numbers with Northgate Market, we weren't able to find any, and that's quite of the majority of the reason why we're doing this as well. They do a lot for sustainability and donations for food, but transparency in regards to data and even financial metrics is hidden. Of course,
Is that industry wide?
it's
Or are there industry studies about this?
I think right now it's industry studies. The Northgate Market, we had gone to the headquarters to try to contact district, but there wasn't any response or response in regards with their sustainability until we went to a local Northgate Market who gave us numbers of gross percentage, gross margin, which is what we use here for the site with 32% gross margin.
Is the number of wasted food available for large chains like Ralph's?
Yes. So
Yes.
we did discover that a lot of the bigger companies that are that are competing with Northgate markets, it's transparent with how much food waste they're producing.
Just doesn't happen to be with Northgate.
It just doesn't happen to
But
be.
you can interpolate by comparing the gross revenue.
Yeah.
Because this thing, how much trash it's making, is making a lot of money.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, 1.3 billion in revenues annually, and you know what I mean. And 43 stores total within just within Southern California.
Okay, I have
think
one
that's-
other area I'd like to explore if I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's happened in the world today is we use terms like climate change. I was having a conversation with some pretty smart people not too long ago about climate change. And I'm not a climate denier, but I am a skeptic. So I said to them, what have you done to educate yourself about the real meaning of climate change?
Yeah.
Because I have done nothing.
Mm.
They had done nothing also.
Right.
So what I did was I went out and I got a couple books, notably the one by Bjorn Lundberg, who's the planetary authority
Right.
on climate change. And I found out there's a lot of people out there thinking the climate isn't changing. What have you done about that question? Or have you just assumed it into your calculations?
Well, the best way to first learn about your impact in climate change is to identify your carbon footprint. And there's multiple ways that you can do that online. Since we are pivoting to more of an, you could say, internal audit within the app, that would be I would say that's how I've learned to calculate our carbon footprint. I mean,
Isn't the real ethical issue here the morality of waste?
Yes. The ethical issue here is the morality of waste. And so I think, and a lot of this, doing this project for me, a lot of it roots from my personal experiences. You know, I've lived in a third world country. I've witnessed climate change happen firsthand. I've watched mountains that I used to live in Roman become nothing but complete dirt. And so, you know, and I've watched famine happen in the country that I lived in, which is the Philippines. And so for me to understand that, having lived here in the United States, specifically in Southern California, for the last 10 years, and there's 30% of people here in LA County that are food insecure, that don't have food in their plates. You know, that to me, it's personal, and obviously Northgate Market here has a potential to change that, right? And that would be a good thing. Yes, and that would be a good thing, right? I mean, the basic function of being able to live and being able to be a productive citizen in our society is food. How do you have energy when you're not consuming anything, when you're not sleeping, right?
But the correlation here with respect to the waste issue is a direct one.
Right.
The correlation with climate change is really artificial and speculative.
Right. I mean, I think that also depends on how much you choose to educate yourself in terms of the studies that have been, you know, produced in terms of how food waste actually produces those greenhouse gas emissions. And it's so much more than just the greenhouse gas emissions that Northgate Market produces. With 43 stores, you know, all throughout Southern California, you need to find a way to restock these stores. So these are trucks, loads and loads of trucks going into your stores to restock your items, and they're also these trucks that are being used to restock stores are also contributing to gas emissions and CO2 emissions into our atmosphere, and that heat buildup from those CO2 going into our atmosphere is causing temperature changes internally here on Earth.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, this wasn't part of your assignment, but do we know how expiration dates and all are come up with? Because if you Google, do I have to throw something out at the expiration date? A store can't sell it to you. but I've had experiment after experiment, and the Google will tell you most canned goods are good at least 1 year, if not 2 years, after the expiration date.
And I thought it was 200.
Well, it could be. I haven't moved it all the way, but I have tested it
Right.
over and over again, and the products are fine.
Right.
You know, way after the expiration date. So I know that's not in your, and you'd be fighting an uphill battle because whoever put these expiration dates, you know, I'm sure it's some lab, blah, blah, blah. And
No, yeah, I hear you.
one out of 1 million cans went bad or something. You
Right,
know, the
right.
taste can change, it says,
Right.
maybe after 2 years. So I'm my own test. And climate change to me, forget the political battle, but we've got, you know, all these, the Antarctica, the ice
Right.
chunks, they're all melting.
Right.
And so to me, that's it. There's climate change, period.
Right.
You know, forget the political battles
Right.
because I'm a Republican in a Democratic state. So,
Mhm.
you know, but I buy into that. I think there is some climate change.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair.
So I think it is, you have Ralph's, and maybe, I don't know if Northgate does this, but because they can't sell it a day after it expires, they put like bread and muffins and things like that and have like a huge discount.
Yeah.
They have a specific shelf
Mhm.
in the store and it's discounted,
Right.
so they can still sell it. And I see a lot of people that I think are of smaller means that are over there, so that's good. I think they're doing, I don't know why more stores don't do that. I don't know how they're getting rid of their products. So I think this is an issue that I think is important. I think you can provide some food insecurity with products that you know are near
Near
expiration.
Yeah.
And wasn't that the philosophy? Is that there's some company, it's escaping me right now, but they sell and will deliver it to you imperfect produce. It's I don't remember the name of it. I know my daughter in Chicago buys some of it, but you know, maybe
Yeah,
the
I think
banana's
I've
a
heard.
little bit bruised or
Yeah.
something like that. So I think there has been a start
Yeah.
to recognize this issue,
Right.
and I think more needs to be done because other than Ralph's, I don't know what other stores do.
Right. Right.
So I think if the app shows that it's discounted, I think that could be additional sales for Northgate and also help people that are, you know, insecure, have a tight budget,
Right. No, I
whatever, you know.
100% agree, and I think in the 21st century, we're moving towards more of a digitalized economy, right? A lot of the things that you can do and you need, it's on your phone. You know, I could go on my phone and order my whole grocery list and come back home and it's there for me, right? And so I think by utilizing that digital aspect of applying those, you know, expiration dates and those discount prices, we can really try to encourage people, hey, this is about to, you know, this is about to expire, you should purchase it. And, you know, that goes into that education tab. Hey, like, if I don't consume, if I don't watch my carbon footprint, this is what it does, right? And so it kind of encourages people to be like, I'm well educated, I've taught myself, you know, what it is when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions and sustainable practices when it comes to food waste consumption. Now I'm gonna try to, hey, I'm gonna make banana bread today. Let's see if Northgate has, you know, expiring bananas within the
Sorry, that's not happening on your digital app. That's somebody going to the store. And I happen to like going to the grocery store. I have never had food delivered.
I mean, it's
from a grocery store.
No, from a grocery store perspective, and it's give or take too. You know, if you were really looking for something specific and time was an issue, you could call your driver who's picking it up for you. Be like, these are the bananas I'm looking for, and I need them to look like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the more ripe ones because they're
Yeah.
sweeter.
Yes.
It's a function of your age.
What, that I like to go to the grocery
No,
store?
if you're my age, you don't buy green bananas.
Oh. I want them. I have all kinds of bananas in my house.
Right.
The ones that are gonna need to be ripe and the ripe ones.
Right.
And but I had another. Go ahead. Do you have any questions? Because I have a.
We'll finish your thought, please.
No. I'm trying to remember what I was going to ask them. I can't remember. So go ahead.
You make me
Yeah.
hungry in the meantime. So thank you for the presentation and for how you've understood what Northgate's about. I'm in character as a Northgate board member. So as a Northgate board member, I perceive our brand as being more upscale than Ralph's. Okay.
Right.
In fact, I see us as sort of, call it a Latino Gelson's. But as an organization that's really built itself up the way we have, we're very proud of that. We want to be known for quality as well as for the experience, right? So I guess my concern is two things. One, the impact it would have on our brand, which could be problematic overall in terms of just our ability to do good in other ways by having this sort of secondary market. And I'm curious, with the other app you mentioned that already exists for this sort of secondhand market for food, is that for food that is near its expiration date, or for food that's just, as Carol had mentioned, kind of cosmetically less attractive?
So I could address the second question you have. So Too Good To Go, it's based in Europe.
What's it called again?
Too
Good To Go.
Yeah,
Got
Too
it.
Good To Go.
Okay.
It's a company based in Europe, and they actually partner with restaurants. So at the end of the day, restaurants have excess food that they won't be selling because stores are closing, or perhaps they didn't make any sales that day. What Too Good To Go does is that through the app, they allow customers to purchase these end of the day food that did not get purchased to be bought by them at a discounted price, so that way it doesn't go to waste.
I see. Okay.
Yes.
Because so if an app like that, if there were something like that in America, and it's fundamentally an aggregator, in terms of my brand's integrity, I would probably prefer to have a third-party aggregator like that working with not just me, but Gelson's, which is half my size, and Ralph's, which is 3 times bigger than me, all kind of on board with our the product we don't want, to bring it to that where it is it's blind, it's what's the word I'm looking for, white labeled more or less, as not being part of my brand.
Right.
But the other question I have is, I guess I'm also concerned from an ethical point of view how it looks if I am creating a market for low-income individuals that is serving them food that's of lower quality, and how that makes me look. Where I have this food that is more available to a low-income individual, but I also kind of know that they're getting lower quality food. That maybe makes me a little bit uncomfortable. And I would ask myself, or I'd ask you, since this is your specialty, Wasteless, I love the idea, your name, Wasteless, what are the other ways, food is fuel, right?
Right.
But are there other ways in which food can be fuel and captured for other purposes that would similarly reduce carbon footprint or otherwise create value rather than just being dead waste?
Well, we have to first look into the demographic and who our target market audience is. And within LA County, the majority is Hispanic, low income, almost middle class. So the majority of these target audience are people who either have EBT cards, either looking for a discount price, and something as finding an alternative of a discount, a rate where inflation prices are extremely high, and you find a food that you could purchase and that could still be safe for you to consume and that can fill your family in a day, will not be something that will aggravate or lessen the quality of Northgate Market, especially if Northgate Market follows 3 pillars, which is service, innovation, and community and family. And so those are the three main pillars of Northgate Market, and Northgate Market themselves have used, let's say an example with like tomatoes. You find that it's a bit, like when they're like soggy,
Mushy.
They can implement it to other parts in their stores, like the salsa department. They have done the compost. In fact, Northgate Market does donate their produce to 5K walks and like marathon units. So that's normally those are the places where will be in city halls where residents will easily pick up fresh produce, a bag of fresh produce or canned food or anything like that. What we want to implement is not just, it isn't much of, hey, you are getting a lesser price, but hey, this is an opportunity for you to find food at a certain better price. Since Northgate Market started what was it, like?
It's 1980s.
1980, so it's
Yes,
been a
it's
while. Since
So
it's been a
Northgate
while,
has
I'd
been around for
say.
quite
Don't
some
say it's
time.
100 years. I was in high school.
And they started with execution of family, so it started low off, and even the Gonzalez brothers, Miguel Gonzalez, he first saw a need for family members, and he even helped employees with donations of food and donations of scholarships. So that is something that's of high value in Northgate Market, which is to
Yeah, so I want to build on to what she says. I think Northgate has done a fabulous job with creating an image, to show to the community. You know, you've been, like she said, you've been donating, you've been implementing sustainable practices, and I think by implementing the solution that we have for you, I don't think it's gonna destroy your image in any way. I think it'll actually make it look better. Be like, oh, so they've been donating to schools, they've been donating to communities, they've been hosting these fundraisers, and now they're offering discounted prices for food that are actually edible and safe to eat. You know, just because it's near expiration date does not mean it's lower quality. I mean, it could be right for certain goods, but the idea is with the economic state that we live in right now with high prices. I think anybody should be happy if they're able to eat something that can get them through the day and that can get them, they can consume safely.
And the two goals that we're trying to fulfill is goal number 12 and 13, and
Eliminate waste.
to eliminate waste. Part of the primary goals about one of them had to do with disability, so to not infringe on people with disabilities.
Oh, the ADA rule?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the other one was education. So as a brand who has, as a business who has made this mission and is a brand known for their loyalty to family and to the community and to their employees, offering an app that can educate them on, hey, you can consume this safely without the quality being damaged, or you cannot consume this produce by this time, or we are selling this but you can still consume it after this time, will be a way to help prosper our community, so that our consumers, so that our employees would be trained to help our consumers, and as well consumers to educate themselves on their carbon footprint and how they can be a bit more sustainable as a college student.
So what categories of food, just as generally said, grocery, produce, etc., meats, what are there categories that would be eligible for this and others that would not be?
Yes, I think.
Or rather, what would those be? That's my close question.
I think it would be most appropriate with the baked goods, just because that's the ones that they're already pre-made and it's easier for them to spoil. I don't know if you guys.
And then I think it would just be produce as well, natural, like fresh produce. I think when companies receive, their shipment of produce for perhaps the week, there's a certain timeline where you can sell that food, and you could see that, right? You could see that. So I think, taking those produces and incorporating practices that can, hey, this might be expiring in 1 or 2 days, by increasing your your ability to preserve these goods, you could apply that into the app and be like, hey, we have these preserved goods. They might be going bad in a couple of days, but here's a discounted price.
Some dairy products like yogurt can still be consumed after a week of sell by. Certain cereals can be consumed 3 months after it's been the label says expiration date.
But are there any legal implications or sort of vulnerabilities, risks that are created when we enter this other market that we don't typically enter into? What would those be?
The legal aspect would be on the baked goods or like the fresh produce that is made specifically from Northgate Market. Just in regards with what can and cannot be sold, since you can't sell a bread that's a day old, so after 24 hours have passed, you have to sell new
Well,
bread.
I think you can't sell any product after the expiration date.
Yeah.
And the whole trick here is to do it a couple days before. I have seen meats both at Ralph's and at Smart and Final, and you've got a culture of people that are on a budget, people that have food insecurity and might not be as fussy eaters, and then there's people like me, I'll have a sale.
Right.
So, and it's because we had 7 people in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. It's not how I live today.
Right.
But I figured I would solve that through education, and I did. But you have different, like you said, your experiences from the Philippines.
Yeah.
And I've been to your beautiful country. And different people we're all products of our experiences. And so
I agree.
my daughter comes to my house and I said, you know what? You didn't pay for any of this stuff. I don't want you throwing it away unless it has bugs in it. Don't tell me because it's past the expiration date.
Right.
You don't live here anymore, so you know what? Hands off.
Right.
But, different people treat things differently. The young people think much differently than I do.
Right.
But their saving habits aren't as good as I am. Every time I see somebody with a Starbucks, I say, do you own a piece of property? Because if you don't, you shouldn't be spending $3 to $5 on that stupid coffee. Until you own property.
Absolutely.
So I grew up saving and always have lived that way, and now I can do anything I want in retirement. So, I have a different philosophy because I had a different experience.
Right.
My daughter doesn't know what it was to be without your own room.
Right.
So, everybody's a product of their experiences, and I think there's, the people that always shop at Gelson's and Whole Foods, they're never going to buy something that's probably a discount.
Right. And so I wanted to address that legal aspect you were concerned about. And so that was the whole point of that education tab. I feel like if you advertise this, education tab in your app, and perhaps even advertise your app in itself, because the last time we visited a Northgate location in LA, your general manager didn't even know that app existed. So working on advertising that app and telling them, hey, we're selling these discounted prices for goods, and that education tab being there, hey, these are the implications of what may or may not occur if you purchase these goods, right? So
in a day of transparency, do you have is there a legal obligation or just an ethical obligation to advise people that may not know that the product can't be sold after the expiration date? Do you have to educate them in that?
Yeah, because just to add on that, because right now I imagine if I use the app,
Yeah.
I presume I'm ordering from the store. It's just as good as if I went to the store to get it.
Right.
Except you will have a separate class, if you will,
right.
that is going to be, a
Section.
tomato is, half the price because it's coming from a different batch, if you will, a soggy batch or whatnot.
But you can use it in soups and in chili, as I do.
Right. And so that's the wonderful thing about Northgate apps as well, is that you have a recipes tab. You have with these goods that could be going to waste, you could incorporate these into the recipes that you already have. It's like, hey, this is going to expire in 2 days, but it's good for these recipes. So you're also helping your community and you're educating them at the same time on how they could safely consume these products.
But you don't have a legal obligation
No,
to
it's-
educate them that
Right,
no store can actually sell something that's expired.
No, it's
It's
not
just as long as you take care of it before the expiration date, or on the day of expiration, you
Right
can
on.
discount it. You just
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
sell it the next day.
Right on.
Yeah.
It's not a legal obligation, and it's just a lot of this roots from our alignment with your values and your goals as a company. You want to help your community. You want to help your families, right? You want to serve them, and it comes down to, if you really want to educate and serve your communities and families, I think part of that is educating them. You know, you have an influence over a plethora of customers here in LA County, and I think you should feel obligated to educate them on these sustainable practices, because, like I said, now more than ever, climate change is a topic of conversation, and I think you can make an impact on that. And, you know, later to come and generations down the line, I want Northgate to be here when I have grandkids, right? And if the day comes, if Northgate ever decides to go global and you have these things implemented, you know, it just creates a better image. It makes you look better, right?
There currently is also a bill that's trying to be passed to enforce businesses to put a Best Buy or improve on their expiration dates. That is still in the process. It's just a petition that's right now trying to be passed. So the way that's also a pivot of why we're trying to include that first within the app to create an authenticity, and also it would help with just customer loyalty, seeing that Northgate Market is doing something to reduce as much as possible waste.
So let me ask a question. If food waste creates methane, why does LA County distribute these little buckets for you to collect all and put it in with the grass? You know, the coffee grounds and...
As compost?
Yeah, it's compost. So it's a completely different process,
okay.
within that Environmental Protector Agency graph that we showed you. So that kind of lands in the middle, where you turn these food scraps into compost and fertilizers. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what's our timing? Should we shift into
2:30. We have till 2:30.
Oh, okay.
Well, some of us have to be at the next assignment at 2:45.
It takes you under 15 minutes to get down.
Well, I have to go by Starbucks.
He already owns property. Exactly.
No, I resented your position because I'm a Starbucks stockholder.
Oh, well, too bad. It still stands.
I had no doubt that he would.
Starbucks increased their price by like $1 and something.
Not a fan of Starbucks.
Well, the reason I asked that was not to cut things short, but to say, should we transition into being the people in character versus
Feels like we should.
If
recommendations? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. Oh, okay. When I asked about other ways, you know, I think my concern would be, as you pointed out, the nature of the market, or rather Northgate's clientele being middle to lower middle class individuals. So these are people who are already familiar with Smart and Final, Food for Less, etc.
Right.
And, you know, on the one hand, you could say, well, you are expanding your market share because now the person who might have gone there sees that they can get less expensive food from Northgate. However, I still think that the difference is that if I go to Food for Less, I say one way or another, it's less expensive here. But it's also not on its way out. So I think that, again, Northgate, in terms of their brand, even if a person doesn't regard it as a problem, I will not be going to Carol's house for my dinner later. That's
good. That's good because I don't cook.
Or Carol. Yeah. But to say that, that, you know, I would, that's where, and I think it would be challenging to sell it to Northgate in that they do have so many other programs that really reflect positively on them and how they're committed to their community and do things that are really constructive in these other sort of domains.
Right.
However, when I pointed out about other aftermarkets, I don't know if this sort of food can be converted into fertilizers or fuels or whatnot, because that would be an interesting thing that they could talk about, but that's outside the food zone.
Yeah. It's not
Because
really-
I would kind of want to keep my food reputation
Yeah.
pure. I'd want that to maintain its image. And if there's an additional benefit and value, to the overall ecosystem, that I am feeding my unused product, that I'm renewing my waste somehow through energy or something else, I think that would be a constructive way of doing it that wouldn't interfere with the brand.
Right.
I also think that, I don't know, but legally, because I'm sure that if I buy, a discounted apple or something at Ralph's, that I'm not going to get tonine poisoning, right?
Yeah.
But I would be concerned from a PR point of view if, gee, I'm selling this less expensive stuff to, and by the way, maybe the market that you're referring to, a lower income market using an EBT card, going to Northgate might be aspirational. Oh, I went to Northgate. I came home with my Northgate bag, and this is really good stuff, right?
Yeah.
Again, I think they would go to a different venue if they were like, look, I just want to get the most for my money. I have this much on the EBT card. I can get twice as much if I shop in this other way at this other venue.
100%.
But that said, I think that what I wouldn't want is for them to start to say, well, why would I shop at Northgate? Because they're expensive if I get the good stuff. But then they want to sell me this other stuff that's kind of like damaged or soggy, or some individuals are big on the ingredients that go in, right?
Yeah.
So I would be concerned about, again, I'm kind of concerned about how it's perceived, and then also what some of the implications of that might be.
Yeah.
Meaning, I don't know, someone, it falls into a narrative of low income or marginalized individuals receiving lower quality, less than, things that are less healthy or whatnot.
Right.
And whether that creates some sort of divide in health, right? We talked about disparities during the pandemic.
I think this is more of a case when you mentioned with brand, with consumer loyalty. So that's more of like a marketing view, where what exactly is what Northgate Market is pivoting? Is it their quality of food, or is it their image brand, which is family and innovation, as I mentioned before, and educating people? What do you give up?
Yeah.
And it's easier said, hey, let's keep our vision, our image of high quality food at the top. But what is to say that another group of people trying to also find a way to become more sustainable or comes and sees, well, there isn't much financial metrics, there isn't much understanding on what is going on with the statistical view of it. I mean, the sustainable view of it. It's what was the second thing that you mentioned at the end, right at the end, was which
About
was
the legal implications or about disparities, if we're somehow, we get built into a narrative about how, big business is feeding into health disparities that are impacting the poor disproportionately. But so that might be hard. That's maybe a difficult one to address. But I wanted to also ask you, or rather, I would say, in a real world situation, ideally you would have a sense of what the costs of implementing any of these programs would be, what potential revenue could be generated by it, not just because the organization, a for-profit business wants to make money, but also to recognize that there are costs in implementing it. Whether that is additional things that have to be done with staff in terms of triaging the food at a certain point, et cetera. So that's substantial, because if I were an operations person, I'd say, what does that whole new system look like? And yes, I believe that I'm doing good, I'm generating less waste, but how do I weigh some of the risks with limited or negative profitability when all's said and done, in terms of what I have to do this thing that I might think is damaging my brain?
My turn. This section is called feedback. It had better be titled helpful hints.
Right.
I know that when you do a job like this, it's a lot of work. And by doing that work and making this presentation, which I found inspirational and good, you learn a lot. But there's some things you don't learn because you don't think about it.
Right.
And I'm going to share with you one of those things, that if you do this or something like it again, either academically or in your career, you do it in the following way. You create a concept paper where you develop what you think you want to say. Then you create another sheet, which is called My Assumptions. And you test your assumptions. And what a lot of people do, and the younger they are, the more they do it, is they assume stuff.
Yeah.
And you all remember learning about when the world was flat?
Yeah.
Well, it's things that used to work then don't work anymore.
Right on.
So you have to test your assumptions, list them, test them. If they're not coming up gold bars, then attack them.
Right.
And that's something that you did not do in this presentation. And if you want to get better at this process, you need to do that.
Thank you. We appreciate that. It means a lot.
I'm done.
Just one point of feedback. So I've judged 4 teams today. You were the only ones who used note cards. But here's the point of those note cards. Maybe because you were nervous, I didn't think any of you really needed the note cards. I think you knew your stuff. And, I think sometimes you seemed a little bit nervous, and not you, I'm not saying you, I'm happy to be looking at you, but no cards were looked at, and I think that made you stumble a little bit when I think you knew the material.
Yeah.
So I would put a timer on. You guys have it all on your phone, and make the presentation and see, because if you're dividing it into 3, you divide minutes, and then test yourselves and continue practicing that until you don't need note cards. In my day, everybody used note cards. Now I see none of the other 3 teams did. I didn't mark you down for that, but I think you knew the material. If I thought you were looking constantly reading, I would have marked you down, but don't use them unless you have to, and I think you didn't really need them.
Thank you so
Okay.
much. We
Mhm,
appreciate
sure.
that.
Sure. It's a matter of practice.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Well,
I guess
thank you
that's
so
it, huh?
much for listening.
I guess that's it.
That's it.
Yeah. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
for
for
All right,
participating.
thank you.
participation. We appreciate it.